I hope that perhaps I will have induced sort of a joyful form of paranoia in the reader.
Coming up, I talk with novelist Hernan Diaz about his Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Trust. That's next on Conversations from the Sun Valley Writers Conference. Stay with us.
Major funding is provided by the Idaho Public Television Endowment and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Hello and welcome. I'm Marcia Franklin. My guest today spent nearly 2 decades writing in virtual obscurity. Then, in 2018, Hernan Diaz learned that his novel, In the Distance, had been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. It didn't win, but only 5 years later, Diaz was about to give a reading in Greenville, South Carolina, when he got the news that would change his life. His second book, Trust, had won the Pulitzer. The novel, set in the world of high finance, teases the reader with the same story told in 4 different voices and 4 different styles of writing. The reader is left to discern what is truth, what is fiction, how does power prop itself up with lies. Diaz's books have now been published in more than 30 languages, and he's traveled all over speaking. I caught up with him at the 2023 Sun Valley Writers Conference, where I talked with him about the themes of his book, his love of words, and what it was like to win one of literature's top awards. Well, welcome to Sun Valley, to Idaho. Have you been here before?
I had never been here before. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Well, I want to start by first congratulating you for the Pulitzer Prize. I mean, that is just incredible. And I want to say 2 words to you and see what it evokes. Nosedive.
Yes, Nosedive. Nosedive is a restaurant in Greenville, South Carolina. Yeah. Do you want to hear the whole story?
Well, as I understand it, you had gone to the Nosedive for some chicken and waffles.
That's right.
When you got the word that
Yeah.
this book had won the Pulitzer Prize. And you went outside.
I did. I'm so sorry that this story is public because,
It's a great story. It's a very novelistic story.
It's my fault, of course, that it is public, but I told it to some journalist when my guard was low, and now it's out of the box. So, yes,
Believe me, there are women in Greenville, South Carolina, who put it on the internet as well because they were so excited for you. So
Is that so?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, the head of the bookstore. She was just thrilled for you. So you were at the Nosedive restaurant. You had chicken. You were going to order chicken and waffles,
Yes,
traditional food. You find out what phone call?
So yeah, I got the news, and of course I was very moved and overwhelmed. So I left everything at the restaurant. I didn't finish my meal. I went and sat down on the curb. I was wearing a baseball hat, which hides my baldness. So I think I looked a little younger, and I was sort of balled up. And these 3 lovely old ladies come up, and honey, are you okay? And I told them what had happened, and the 3 of us, complete strangers, were hugging, and they were taking down my name, and so they were the first people with whom I celebrated.
What was the emotion?
The main takeaway is, for me, is I've been writing forever. Since I learned how to write, I knew I wanted to be a fiction writer, and I did so. I devoted my life to books in different capacities. I'm a bookish person. I'm a bookworm, and I always kept on writing. However, for a decade, over a decade, or 2 decades almost, nobody would touch my stuff. Nobody would publish my stories. I couldn't get representation. I didn't have an agent. It was maddening. It was very sad and frustrating and isolating. And I kept writing, not because I thought one day I would win a big award or be published by, a big publishing house. I kept writing out of my love for sentences and the pleasure I find in inhabiting language in this in this intense, deliberate way, and the beauty that I find in syntax. So of course it's welcome, and it's fun, and it's an outsized honor that I never thought I would be worthy of. But it's believe me when I tell you, it's not the reason why I did all of this at all.
I meant the emotion welling up in you when you were on the curb.
Exactly. And I think the main reward too is the sense of communion that comes with all of this, and the possibility to get to know other writers. I'm right here, in Sun Valley, and there's so many heroes of mine, and I will meet some of them for the first time over this weekend. And what an outsized privilege that is, way more than any kind of institutional seal of approval that one may get. It is the conversation, because I do believe that literature is a conversation.
And it's neat that it happened in Greenville and not in New York and not in LA and not, it happened in
I agree with you.
real America.
Yeah.
Where they can sit down on the curb with you and make sure you are okay. In New York, people might have just walked right by you and said, it's another guy sitting on the curb with a baseball cap.
Yes.
So I
never thought of it that way. You're probably right, Yes.
Oh, they're so happy for you. I read this book with no preconceived notions, because I don't like to read synopses or reviews or anything like that.
Right.
And, I started it on a plane, and I was immediately pulled into it. And about 130 pages in, all of a sudden, this story that I've been reading stopped. And I started the next part of I first thought, is this a book of short stories? And I started the next chapter, if you will. And it was, I'm sorry, but it was just so poorly written. And I thought, oh God. I thought, but I'm interviewing this author. I have to keep going. And then a couple pages in, I was, okay, I get it now. Right. I get it. But that's what you want, right? Yeah. This is a book that contains it's polyphonic, or, that 4 different looks at a story.
Yes.
And is written in 4 different ways. And
That's
so
right.
I assume the experience I had was what you might have been hoping a reader would
absolutely,
have.
Absolutely. And it was a big gamble. So the book opens with a whole novel within the novel that narrates the ascent of a fabulously wealthy couple. Then that ends, and then we have a sort of a shattered autobiography. And gradually we come to realize that this is the real man on whom the fictional tycoon was based, and he's not happy with the way in which he's been depicted. And then we move on to the 3rd section, which is written by the secretary of the real-life tycoon on whom the novel was written. And as the secretary is looking back on her life, she's now an older woman, she's also conducting some archival research where she finds the 4th and last section, which is the personal diary of the real-life tycoon. So that's the whole story. The first section is written in a highly stylized turn-of-the-century, 19th to 20th prose, with long syntactical periods, with a very lush kind of vocabulary and a hovering kind of gaze. And from that, we change gears in a very grating way to meet this very loud, boisterous man. I was saying it was a big gamble because, and this came across when I was shopping the book around with my agent. The people who were afraid of the second section were clearly not the right editors for me. The idea was, in a way, to build this capital with the reader and then burn through it, like over the course of 5 pages. But this also, I'm not trying to be clever here, this also means trusting the reader and hoping that they would
Yeah, I got it. I got the,
Exactly.
I don't know if conceit is the right word, but
Yeah.
I got what you were trying to do, and then I allowed myself to go
Right.
into all the different styles of reading. Talk to me about the desire to have these 4 very distinct voices. They're written in different styles, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
You even had a style guide for each
That's true.
section so that the characters would be speaking, using certain words or not using certain words. Why this structure?
Well, why the structure? The book is, among other things, perhaps primarily about capital in the United States and the accumulation of wealth, and the epic narratives with which wealth tends to surround itself. Every great fortune needs a self-legitimizing narrative. I feel that power and money are extremely reliant on narrative. They really need, they can't prop themselves up and stay up without these narratives. And this is why there is such an eagerness to be in control of the history and the way in which we chronicle any kind of powerful institution or fortune. So in these chronicles of wealth in the United States, there are no women. This is not hyperbole, it's not a figure of speech, it's literally the number is 0. So I thought instead of merely thematizing the issue of voice or voicelessness, why not enact it formally? Why not have the reader experience what it is to be confronted by this loud voice that you thought was poorly written? But it's the kind of voice that has been screaming at us from history books, that scream at us from newspaper.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a very typical kind of poorly written autobiography. I think you did it brilliantly. And we have Mildred, who is the wife of the tycoon, who's really the central figure of this.
Yes.
I know for your research for this book, you went through diaries of the wives of high finance
I did.
people, and that it was a pretty moving experience for you.
Yeah, I did do a lot of archival work for this book, and so I would request the papers of these wives of real-life American tycoons, and their papers, for the most part, in general, were kind of poorly cataloged, and it was very, very clear that many of these papers had never been opened in over a century. So that was a very poignant aspect of the research, more than the details that I found in the notebooks themselves. What came out, and I think this made it into the novel, and these are things that I saw, sort of these women trying desperately to fill the pages of their journals without having sometimes anything to say. So I remember this particular woman who would write down at home, week after week.
On the surface, this seems like a pretty straightforward tale. We have an extremely wealthy man who loves making money, talks about it all the time, and his wife who loves giving it away, apparently.
Yeah.
And yet there's a mystery throughout all of it, that who really is she? And what is her import in his life and in finance? And I'm not going to give any of it away. But the reader needs to try and decide which of these voices about Mildred, he, she, they, believe to be true, or if they're like me, I just suspended judgment altogether.
Oh, good for you.
And I just said, these are 4 different stories. I'm going to go along for the ride,
Right.
and I'm not going to make a decision. But either way, you're presented with 4.
You know what? I feel there are 2 different experiences in this book, possibly at least. One is you get to the end and you confirm your suspicions, and that's totally fine. And the other one is you get to the end and it's a big surprise.
I do want to ask, why you felt it was so important to set this in a world of high finance, of the making of money.
Well, it was important to me that it be finance capital as opposed to the production of tangible goods or concrete services. I like the abstraction of finance capital, money that is sort of unmoored from any kind of goods. That to me is very fascinating. And, capital begetting capital, begetting capital. That is something I was interested in because also this abstract form of money has a fictional or fictive quality to it, which is that it is only upheld by confidence and by belief in these instruments and their meaning. If belief cracks, the system cracks. So money and storytelling have a lot in common. If you don't believe in a story, you lose interest. It doesn't work. There has to be, willful or not, to quote Coleridge. There has to be a suspension of disbelief. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
I was really drawn to the female characters. I'm drawn to Mildred, the wife, and then drawn to Ida.
It's your decision.
Ida, who's the reporter in a way. I mean, she's a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
And so these are very strong female characters.
Yeah.
And was it a task to write them, or was it a joy?
It was both. I was concerned. I knew the novel wouldn't land if those voices came across correctly. I was also concerned. I think the issue of appropriation is a serious one, and I do take it seriously. I don't necessarily think that is the end of the conversation. I think it's the beginning of the conversation. I think
about whether someone who identifies as male can write about somebody who's female.
For example,
Right.
For example,
Yeah.
yes. And I think if literature has a duty, which is a debatable notion for me, perhaps it would be that the ability to imagine what it is to be someone else and give others the ability to imagine what it is to be someone else. If we relinquish that, then I fail to see at least the moral point of literature, its ethical implications.
Why did you want a reader to be confronted or taken through these different voices?
I try to avoid exposition as much as I can.
Right.
I love it when form is doing the thing that I am trying to say, when the book enacts its own meaning materially. So I thought a novel about voice ought to be polyphonic, ought to be choral, ought to have this kind of arrangement,
Including dissonance.
Including dissonance. Well, music is a big presence in the book. So it is a novel of counterpoints, in a musical sense of the term. Also, honestly, fun. Let's not forget about that. I want to have fun when I write. I want to have fun when I read. It's pointless for me without it. And this seemed more fun. If I'm going to talk about this political issue, I don't want to be a finger-wagging, pedagogical kind of writer who is, sort of writing a monograph of sorts of, So I thought this would be more fun to have the reader experience these voices. Yeah.
And I like the fun that you have with the puns, with trust, with bonds, with futures, all of which have, double, triple entendres to them.
There's so many.
There's so many ways that you can look at the word trust,
Yeah.
either from a financial standpoint or trusting somebody,
Yes.
or bonds between people and bonds, futures. Yeah, you're having a lot of fun there, I could tell. And
Yeah, there are many. I mean, if you have nothing better to do with your life, there are a lot of Easter eggs in the book. There are many doubles. There are many mirrorings. There are many, yes, puns and words that are doing many things at the same time. I'm a sucker for that. Yeah.
ultimately, in our own lives, and particularly now with the internet and on the cusp of AI, all of us are presented with these different voices of truth. Is it a reflection, a commentary as well on the fire hose of information we have of all the people hanging their shingles out for truth, trying to get you to trust them and their message that we're all dealing with now?
Yeah, to some extent, but I am concerned with the relationship between fiction and truth. And this book is very much invested in exploring the evanescent boundary between fiction and history, for example. This is something at the core of the book. And also how power and money have the ability to bend and align reality. I think this is something we experience on a daily basis with media. And the relationship between writing and power have always been extremely intimate. It's not for nothing that writing was kept, a sort of secret or privilege of the elite for centuries, for millennia, I should say, rather. Literacy is a very, very new phenomenon.
Yes, and the tycoon in this book is doing everything he possibly can to keep control of the narrative.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing, just a quick example, he's so displeased with how he comes off in this novel that he actually buys a majority stake in the publishing house and makes sure that the book is out of circulation. And because he's such a big donor, the New York Public Library and so on and so forth, he manages to sort of withdraw the book from the public library system and erases the book from reality. And that to me was such a powerful image, the idea that someone can be wiped out.
Now, it was very important to you as well, the graphic look of the book, right?
Yes.
The way the typefaces and the way it's on the page, for instance, the journals. Talk about that, the visual part of this book.
Yeah, I'm a very visual writer. Whenever I'm, I have a manuscript, I look at pages without reading them, to see how text heavy they are, to see line breaks. It's immensely important to me. And the fourth part of the book is a bit of a prose poem, and the second part of the book is, it's made of textual shrapnel. Everything is sort of broken.
Notes to self.
Yeah, exactly.
Write more about this.
Exactly.
This is great.
I wanted the pages to look just so, and I don't know if I'm hoping readers will feel that. It maybe not consciously, but I feel those little things compound over the course of 400 pages.
Little things make a difference.
Yes.
And talk about what may seem like a little thing, but is a big thing, which is writing in pen.
Yes.
Handwriting for you, and not typing.
Yeah, well, I'm a lousy typist. I think it all comes from that in part, and also, there's this sensual element to the pen that I love, and a different relationship to the page. A word processor tells you, commands you how to interact with that space. The options are pre-given to you. Whereas the page is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. Yeah.
Jot notes all around it, and you write. You don't write drafts and then rewrite. You're writing as you go along, right, and correcting.
Yeah, I'm a very meticulous. It doesn't mean good. It just means that meticulous editor of myself and of others. I actually have a hard time reading without editing in my head. I wish I could, because sometimes it takes away from pleasure, So most of my work, in a writing day, is editing my own stuff.
And is it true you've been able to hang on to the same pen for
It's
20 years?
It's totally true. It's totally true. It's in my hotel room. It's
Oh,
in my
okay.
room. But it's true. I mean, it will get lost one day. No, it will. There's no. I mean, but it will get lost. But I cannot not use it. Yeah.
When people finish this book and walk away from it, put it on the shelf, what do you hope they take away from it?
I hope that perhaps I will have induced a sort of a joyful form of paranoia in the reader, by which I mean a healthy form of suspicion. I think we should always be alert and critical and awake when we read, and this is the book is a kind invitation to that kind of attitude.
Kate Winslet has optioned this. Is this correct for?
That is totally correct.
Is it a series or a?
It is. It's serious. It's being made by HBO, and yes, Kate is both starring in it and producing it, and it's of course been such a trip. You know, it's
Talk about trust. You got to hand a book over to the corporate high finance world of Hollywood too.
It was a very long process. I can't stress that enough. And I feel I aged maybe 7 years in 3 weeks, but it is in the right hands. It's the director is a genius, and of course Kate Winslet is a genius. There's no other word, and her knowledge of film and cinematic language is just so deep. The ideas she's already brought to this project are invaluable.
Well, I will look forward to that.
Me too.
I really want to see how it's articulated, in a different medium. A fifth or more now voice, right? Because
that's right.
Film will bring to it yet another way of looking at things. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it. And
such a pleasure.
Congratulations again on all your success.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Hernan Diaz, who won a Pulitzer Prize for his novel, Trust. Our conversation was recorded at the 2023 Sun Valley Writers Conference. My thanks to our team and to conference organizers for inviting us back for our 16th season at the renowned event. If you'd like to watch any of the 75 interviews we've recorded at the conference over the years, check out our website. You'll also find all the interviews on the Conversations from the Sun Valley Writers Conference playlist on YouTube. I'm Marcia Franklin. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Major funding is provided by the Idaho Public Television Endowment and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.